Welcome to GBS Morning Extra. My name is Tom Muema as usual. This has been your show, and today, being on Tuesday, we are setting the pace for the political move this week. And of course, I'm not alone. I'm joined by two gentlemen here. Rocky Okoth, good morning.
Good morning.
And of course, Amenya Bariasubuhi.
Salama sana.
I see you're good.
Yes, I'm good. I'm okay.
Okay, when I see you smiling this morning, I know everything is okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, we have as a country, we are still mourning the death of the Safaricom CEO.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate, and we hope the best, and we have to send our humble condolences to the family.
Absolutely.
And for the country as a whole, we have lost a very important man.
True.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll be discussing all that later on in our discussion as we review the papers. Also, they have also given priority to that story.
Yeah.
Of course, asante sana.
Asante.
Okay, and now Morning Extra starts right now. Remember, you can join the conversation, hashtag GBS Morning Extra. And of course, our SMS line is still active, 21144. And don't forget, we are also live on YouTube. You can also stream or tell a friend to stream this amazing morning show. And Morning Extra starts right now. And Southern Sudan President Salva Kiir has made his first official visit in Kenya, a visit that is expected to strengthen the trade ties between the two countries.
President Salva Kiir was received at State House, Nairobi, in an elaborate ceremony that included a 21-gun salute. The South Sudanese president was received by his host, President Uhuru Kenyatta, at the start of his two-day state visit. The two leaders had a one-on-one talks where they talked about issues of mutual interest before leading their respective national delegations into bilateral talks. They both addressed a joint press conference at State House. The talks between President Kenyatta and President Kiir focused on matters of bilateral and multilateral importance, including trade and ongoing efforts to restore peace and stability in South Sudan. The issue of peace in South Sudan has been a major concern to President Kenyatta, who has been at the forefront in attempts to finding a lasting solution to the instability in East Africa's youngest nation.
Acute myeloid leukemia, is one of the deadly diseases that are known these current years. The disease is also claimed the life of the Safaricom CEO, Bob Collymore. But what exactly is this acute myeloid leukemia?
Acute myeloid leukemia is a cancer of the myeloid line of blood cell, characterized by the rapid growth of abnormal cells that build up in the bone marrow and blood and interferes with normal blood cells. As an acute leukemia, AML progresses rapidly and is typically fatal within weeks or months if left untreated. In other words, a type of cancer of the blood and bone marrow with excess immature white blood cells. Causes of myeloid leukemia. The exact causes of the genetic mutation that turns bone marrow cells into leukemia cells is unknown. However, the main known cause of acute leukemia are exposure to high level of radiation, benzene, or both. If a nuclear industry accident exposes people to radiation, they will have a higher risk of developing AML. However, radiation does not just come from nuclear accidents. Pilots with more than 5,000 hours of flight time, for example, can receive enough radiation increase their risk of AML as they are closer to the sun. Exposure to benzene is linked to industrial solvent. Benzene is a major part of crude oil and gasoline. Smoking certain genetic conditions like Fanconi anemia and receiving some therapy drugs for the treatment of other cancers can lead to the development of AML. Signs and symptoms: fever or chills, persistent fatigue, weakness, frequent or severe infections, losing weight without trying, swollen lymph nodes, enlarged liver or spleen, easy bleeding or bruising, recurrent nose bleeding, tiny red spots in your skin, excessive sweating, especially at night, bone pain or tenderness. Treatment of AML. The main treatment for most types of AML is chemotherapy, sometimes along with a standard therapy drug. This might be followed by a stem cell transplant. Other drugs besides standard chemotherapy drugs may be used to treat people with acute promyelocyte leukemia. Surgery and radiation therapy are not major treatment for AML, but they may be used in special circumstances. Lifespan. For most other types of AML, the remission rate is around 67%. Those older than 60 years don't typically respond to treatment as well, with about half of them going to remission after induction. In general, children with AML are seen at lower risks than adults. Around 85 to 90% of children with AML will go into remission. According to the American Cancer Society, AML will return in some cases. Esther Ithera, GBS Morning Extra.
And it's a joy of every parent to see the children grow and progress in life. This was evident in weekend when the Deputy President William Ruto attended his daughter's graduation at Strathmore University.
Deputy President William Ruto joined hundreds of other proud parents at Strathmore University to witness his daughter's graduation. Ruto was casually dressed in blue jeans, a maroon t-shirt, and a blue leather jacket. Accompanied by his wife Rachel Ruto, the Deputy President attended his daughter Stephanie Jepchumba's graduation upon completing her law degree. Father and daughter moments between Deputy President William Ruto and Stephanie Ruto turned into a trending topic on social media over the weekend. The Deputy President congratulated his daughter, applauding her dedication, hard work, and self-sacrifice that got her to this point. He added that she could embrace justice, fidelity, and impartiality as she embarks on her legal profession.
And to a story now closer to you and what you do on daily basis, how many times do you transact using your mobile phone? Statistics have now shown that the mobile cash deals have grown to approximately 186 billion over the last 5 months.
The value of cash transacted through mobile phones in the first 5 months of the year rose to 186.11 billion Kenyan shillings compared with the similar period last year, largely driven by higher e-commerce transactions. Central Bank of Kenya numbers has indicated that mobile payments hit nearly 1.79 trillion Kenyan shillings in the review period from 1.60 trillion Kenyan shillings a year ago. This translates to a daily average of nearly 11.85 billion Kenyan shillings in the period and 11.58% growth over 10.62 billion Kenyan shillings posted in the similar period in 2018. Major sectors of the economy such as financial services, retail and wholesale trade, agriculture and health have integrated mobile platforms such as M-Pesa, Airtel Money, and T-Cash into their payment systems owing to the convenience and speed. Unlike during the former years when the mobile money platforms were largely used for person-to-person cash transfers, they are now increasingly being used to initiate and cut business deals such as purchases of goods and services, as well as processing of instant short-term loans. E-commerce deals are largely driven by growth in online shopping as well as increased uptake of instant low-value unsecured mobile loans. A survey by Consumer Insight Africa, a Nairobi-based research firm, shows that mobile money usage among Kenyans was growing. The survey, based on a feedback from 3,703 persons through face-to-face interviews in 16 counties, suggested that 14% of Kenyans prefer to use mobile money channels, nearly double from 7% in 2017.
And now back to education matters. And Kenya School of Law has for recent days exposed thousands of students to failure of exams, something that has ESCC to probe the matter. There had been mass failure of examination in the institution that has raised alarm. Okay, that story is still in the making. We'll come back to it when it's ready. But now let's focus on the newspaper review. Remember, you can join the conversation, hashtag GBS Morning Extra. And of course, our SMS line, that's 21144. And also remember to tell a friend to keep it GBS wherever he is, because you can also watch us live on YouTube. Just subscribe on our channel. And of course, you can catch all our programs live from that platform anytime, anywhere. And now let's look at what the newspapers asked this morning. We start the Daily Nation. Daily Nation is talking about the death of a titan. That is Safaricom CEO Bob Collymore, the fallen chief executive officer of the giant telecommunication company. build a legacy of innovation, resilience, and transformation as the leading telco in the region, but he was not a god in small letters. Of course, we woke up yesterday, gentlemen, with a very sad story of a fallen hero. We call him a hero because he has been here for since 2010, almost 9 years, and he has changed life of many, and also lifted Safaricom to another level that he did not find it. And maybe we start with you, Rokin. How do you make of this fallen hero?
You know, the person of Bob Colimo, you know, he's a, first of all, I'm very sure most Kenyans don't know where he was born. He was born in Guyana, in South America. He was a British businessman, and also a Kenyan based on Chapter 3 of the Kenyan Constitution. He was a Kenyan on the virtue that through registration, anybody can be a Kenyan. So Bob Colimo was not just a titan, as Daily Nation calls him. He was actually an intellectual giant, because when he came to this country in 2010 and took over Safaricom from Michael, we have seen Safaricom make big strides. We have seen Safaricom actually empower people. We have seen Safaricom not just make huge profits, but also give back to the society through sponsoring projects in water, sponsoring projects. Even in Nairobi here, we saw Bob and or Safaricom partner with the state to install CCTV cameras to help in security of the city. He also did a lot in terms of contributing to the environment. And also, I also remember, you know, he loved jazz. If you look at his portfolio, he loved jazz music. And if you go back to the history, even America during the Cold War used jazz to propagate their propaganda and ideologies about capitalism. And actually, jazz really helped them to conquer communism in '89. So Bob's love for jazz and the fact that he has actually empowered so many talents in terms of music and jazz actually speaks for itself. He has really helped and empowered Kenyans, and he has also taken Safaricom to a higher level in this country. Yeah.
Okay, of course, you can pass your condolences as well.
Actually, I just say, you know, death is an enemy to everybody. Death is very painful, and to the family of Bob and to all Kenyans. Actually, I just want to pass my condolences and that of MDF Kenya, and I just wish Bob's spirit a blissful life, in a heavenly life or blissful life in his next life, and may the ground lightly lie on him.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Adson, what will you remember Bob Colimo for?
First of all, I think I should send my personal condolences to the family. Of course, Miss Wamboi and the children of Bob. And of course, to the larger Kenyan community. Bob was a very transformative and an outstanding corporate leader who shall be remembered for the legacy he has left for Safaricom. So as a country, we have lost a very big pillar. And I think from this point, because now that we know the death of, the cause of the death of Ndugu Bob, we need to start charting a new way in terms of how we are going to handle the menace of cancer in this country. Okay. But it's a very unfortunate state of affairs, and I mourn with the country, I mourn with the family of Bob.
Okay. Thank you so much. And of course, we will miss him here at GBS. We also pass our condolences to their family, their Wambui, and their four Bob Colimo's children. And we hope God will comfort them. And of course, we pray that the spirit of the Safaricom CEO is actually a very touching story. We hope that his spirit will rest in eternal peace. Okay, now looking for other stories also. There's also another story here that's concerning the Salva Kiir trip. Juba to get land in Naivasha, South Sudan, is said to receive 10 acres at the planned Naivasha dry port as President Kenyatta continues to woo neighbors to use the standard gauge railway. Now, what do you make of this story? Now that we have the SGR and now President Kenyatta plan or master plan to make it a Eastern Africa thing.
You know, I expected a discussion about Kenyans living around this region or even other parts of the country, how they will benefit from this SGR deal. You know, for another country to get land in this region, instead of Kenyans being given a priority, as a person, I find that one to be very, I don't really like that argument or debate. Okay. Because it is one that leads the country to a path where Kenyans will start asking themselves why maybe the government is putting them as second best when it comes to priorities concerning the SGR. Because even in the SGR itself, we have heard various remarks of Kenyans claiming that they are second best in terms of even employment in the SGR. They claim 3/4 of the employees in the SGR itself are Chinese. And now when we open windows and doors for other countries like South Sudan to have a share on this place or at Naivasha port, then it actually raises questions. Although as a region, you know, South Sudan is part of the East African community. And now when we welcome them to do business with us, it is another way of actually, it is a window of bilateral relations between the two countries. We know what Kenya, the businesses and the relations, the cordial relations that Kenya enjoys with South Sudan. We know even the role that Kenya played in the CPA in 2005, even the Machakos treaty that was signed here, the Naivasha Treaty, that enabled South Sudan to gain independence. And the two countries are very close in terms of relations. So it speaks so much to bilateral relations as a country. It will foster our relations in the region, and I know business will also be fostered in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Menya, I see you want to react to that, but is it the right move maybe to President Kenyatta maybe to give our neighboring countries some incentives so that they can also do business with us?
First of all, I'll start by disputing what he started with. The initial project, the initial vision of SGR was not just to benefit the people of Kenya. It was to expand the Kenyan businesses to our neighboring countries in East Africa. And that is why we have a plan to extend the SGR to Uganda and perhaps now in the coming days to South Sudan and Tanzania. It's a step in the right direction for me because as a region, we need to integrate and work together. But even more encouraging is the fact that we have we are the Kenya and even South Sudan and the majority of the East African countries have signed the Continental Free Trade Agreement, the free trade area. And it's very encouraging because business is the root of that CGTA.
Okay. So you want to react also?
I wanted to react on him. I'm happy that he said to expand this JAR to the neighboring countries. I'm disputing the fact that, yes, we have our neighbors. Everybody has neighbors. Even at your home, I'm very sure that you have neighbors, and whatever happens in your home should be a household affair. You know, South Sudan is just here. We share South Sudan Nedapal border with Kenya. They can extend the SGR to South Sudan. South Sudanese don't have to come to Naivasha to do business here and compete with the Kenyans for SGR plan that seeks to integrate the region to work. Actually,
you know, the initial idea is not to bring South Sudan to Kenya. It is welcoming a neighbor who is ready to work together with us who is ready to provide opportunities that are not available to us. Because if we do not show goodwill, then the people of South Sudan might not be able to see that as a country we have invited them to come on board.
But there's also been a concern. There's also been a concern about how our citizens are being treated in South Sudan. So something that they should have addressed also.
That is a whole issue. I do not see that connection with the relation, the trade relations that President Uhuru is forging.
Not related to the business per se. I'm talking about the whole visit, the whole Salva Kiir visit. Do you think that that should be also something that should have been maybe given priority also, apart from the business?
From where I sit, Kenyan authorities have been up and down in Sudan, and I think in the embassies over there, to try and find a solution to the problems that have faced the Kenyans that live there. A couple of months ago, we realized that there are Kenyans who had been arrested, and in circumstances that are not clear. I think authorities have tried to intervene, and there must be a solution after proper investigation. Because every country operates on laws.
Okay, but Rocky, do you think it could have made more impact if the two heads of state maybe addressed the issue?
For me, first of all, we must understand that our neighbor, South Sudan, is embroiled in conflicts. The MPLM-A and MPLM-M leaders are actually engaged in some sort of conflict, and this has actually gone on since they gained independence.
It's a big conflict.
So for me, and we are actually in the region, we are one of the largest people who are hosting South Sudanese in our Kakuma refugee camp in Turkana. That one is a step further to show goodwill as a neighbor. You don't call your neighbor to your sitting room to have dinner with him. Then the next day you again call him in your bedroom to sleep on your bed. At the same time, as a country, we must protect our interests. And in this case, I feel like the interest of Kenya is not just to show goodwill to our neighbors. The interest of Kenya in this deal must revolve around delivering services to Kenyans, making Kenyans comfortable with this deal of SGR. How are Kenyans going to benefit in the SGR deal if the 3/4 of employees of SGR are Chinese? Number one. Number two, you saw how demolitions were happening here in Nairobi based on the SGR question. Again, you want to introduce another blow to Kenyans, that you are selling land to a foreign country in this region that would have actually benefited Kenyans economically.
They're not actually selling. They're just giving them like 10 acres.
Yeah, 10 acres is a big deal. It's a big deal in terms of economics. People can actually use that land, that resource, to actually change their lives, to create employment for themselves. But I'm not disputing the fact that Kenya is trying to show their relations with Sudan, and as a diplomat, I feel like there's a good shot towards bilateral relations, and I'm very sure Kenya knows why it is doing that in the long run, and I know maybe the president and even the Minister of Foreign Affairs know why they are giving South Sudan, and I'm sure maybe the country is going to benefit from that deal.
I think there's some sort of double standard from my brother, because on one hand, it praises the bilateral relations, that President Kenyatta is trying to forge, but at the same time disputing the fact that there will be a business relation between the two countries. And I think one of the problems we have had in terms of the management of SGR since its inception has been making profits. It's a major setback, a major drawback to the management of, or even the existence of SGR as a whole. And I think the Kenyan market is diminishing as time goes by. And what I'm seeing is President Uhuru Kenyatta trying to expand the kind of activities that SGR is meant to do, so that we can export our goods to South Sudan, or import, in an easy manner to Uganda, to Tanzania, to our neighboring countries.
Also, Southern Sudan is also a landlocked country.
Yes.
So maybe it could
Yeah, it's a way of bringing
them on board.
Yeah, on board.
Okay, and also on page 5, the Daily Nation has also highlighted the late Safaricom CEO Bob Collymor's legacy. In 2010, Bob Collymore appointed as the CEO. Then M-Pesa unveiled Lipakaro, which allowed schools to receive fees via Safaricom platform, that's on mobile transaction. In 2012, he partnered with CBA to launch the Mshwari, a product that are familiar with many Safaricom users. In 2013, he launched Safaricom Lipa na M-Pesa, a product that enables customers to make payments via the M-Pesa platform. And in 2014, he partnered with the government on 15 billion national security surveillance projects. That's Nairobi, had been highlighted by Fred Rockin. And also in 2016, he began the rollout of Safaricom Home Fiber, reaching more than 140,000 homes. In 2017, he launched Chapadimba, the first network in East Africa to launch. He also launched the first football competition to sponsor, to nurture talents in the sporting world. And also, he became the first network in East Africa to launch 4G. Safaricom launched the 4G network in 2014 and becomes Kenya's first company to hit the 1.2 mark in the market value Nairobi Stock Exchange. And in 2018, Safaricom simplified M-Pesa API target developing and startups. These to help the SMEs and upcoming businesses. And in 2019, also Bob Collymore oversaw the launch of the Fuliza product with the Mkesho and with partnership with Equity Bank, a product that enables customers to withdraw or maybe to transact more than they have on their phones and then refund later. He's a man with a lot to celebrate about in terms of governance. And of course, let's now look at what the Standard has this morning. It's all about Robert Collymore. Bob was ready for the last call. Fare thee well. Collymore lived on borrowed time and was ready for death after doctors told him not to make long-term plans and that he would be lucky to see the end of July. Sources are saying that some of the friends, he disclosed actually to some of the friends that he might not live past July, so he was ready for his demise. And of course, on page 8, also Deputy President Dr. William Ruto wants President Uhuru Kenyatta to call a party meeting. President's allies have, however, dismissed such calls, saying focus should be on uniting the country and not their party. We have talked a lot about the fallen hero. Let's now shift gears to Jubilee politics. Here, the Deputy President and his lieutenants wants the President to call for a party meeting, but it seems that there are some section of the Jubilee Party that is not comfortable with that, saying the country is more important when united than the party. What do you make of that, Rocky?
You know, I'm always a subscriber to Muammar Gaddafi's ideology on party politics. Of course, he disapproves the presence or the centrality of parties in the welfare of the citizenry. But in this country, Jubilee, being that it produced the president and the deputy president, I think it is only good if the president and the deputy president comes in to salvage the situation, because as we can see, the country is in a political mood. And if at all that one starts with Jubilee, then it raises questions. So for me, I feel like the president should come in very fast and heal the situation, because we have seen so many allegations coming from Jubilee. For instance, we heard the tape, the recording of Honorable Raphael Tuju. Yes, so to me, I feel like, he has been an angel since 2013, and some members of Jubilee, a section of Jubilee, Elias Tangatanga, wanted to eat him alive today because
he's now a devil.
He's now a devil. In our village, we say, that when a hyena wants to eat its children, it accuses them of smelling like a goat. so Tuju today is smelling like a goat, and if he is not very careful, he might be eaten by these guys. And the latest shockwave that has actually found Jubilee in a state that it wished never to find itself in since 2013 is the root assassination claims, which has actually bedeviled the party. And to me, I feel sorry for them. It is time that the president and his deputy call their house in order and keep the country, or keep the Big Four agenda of the president going, because it cannot happen. It cannot be a possibility if the country is in a political mood. And as I said in the previous interview, the country is polarized, and Jubilee is the one that has caused this issue of polarization in the country, and it will be upon the president to call his members of the party to toe the line and to support his Big Four agenda. Even in the budget, we saw that he allocated a lot of money to the Big Four agenda. So if Jubilee will actually have a paradigm shift from the Big Four agenda to politics, then I think the president might fail in achieving those agendas of his. Yeah.
Okay, Adson, now the Jubilee Party is totally divided. Yes, although they deny that the party is still united, but do you think calling a meeting right now will just worsen the issues? Because there are two groups in that party, and from my opinion, I don't really think that that meeting could really materialize as per now as you speak. Some might boycott, or some might maybe cause a stir in that meeting. Do you think is it the right time, or just the president is doing the right thing just to keep calm and maybe watch what would going to happen?
The president is the party leader of Jubilee, and by all means he can call for a party engagement between the members of Jubilee. But I'm afraid he might not be able to do that, because right now there is a very big difference in terms of the visions of the Deputy President William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta. I said here last time that President Uhuru is somebody who is focused on what he wants to achieve for his legacy for 10 years. And Ruto is focused on clinching the seat once Uhuru exits the scene. So calling for a party meeting is not something essential or something we should be celebrating right now. Instead, we should be calling for national unity, bringing all Kenyans together. And because the party unity is really inferior to national unity. I expect more from William Ruto. Because he calls himself a national leader, and what a national leader does is not at this point to, because I believe he is the one who has actually, materialized some of what my brother is saying, polarization of this country. We are in a very big political mood, or in a political situation, which the politicians, especially in Jubilee, which has now camouflaged to two factions, has taken us to. So I think it is time the president refuses to listen to those kinds of calls, and I think he does, because the president has been very categorical that the only discussion he wants to have is a discussion of how this country is going to develop, a discussion of how is he going to achieve issues of manufacturing, food security, and the other pillars in his vision, Big Four.
Okay. I always look at the history of this country with a lot of nostalgia. When you read the history of Kenya in the 80s, and the way they used to run KANU under the one party, the Jewish state, you find that when Moi will speak, the parliament will listen, all leaders will listen, and the country will actually toe the line. Everybody in the country will actually follow his steps. And that one is what we call power. If you cannot call your house in order, if you cannot summon your members of a party, and I believe Jubilee has party mechanisms of solving disputes. I believe they have their own party mechanisms of how they can call members on the table and maybe solve their disputes. apart from just playing politics outside the scene. They should borrow a leaf from the former president, how he used to run the country. And I know the situation has changed. We are in a plural society. We have multi-party democracy. So many people want to come up and have their thumb on the politics and the affairs of the country. But the president should just come, call the members in this meeting.
But I think the president has also tried to call the politician maybe to stop politicking right now. But it seems they are not listening to him. Why do you think that when he calls for the meeting, they will listen to him?
It is because of the plural nature of our system, number one. Number two, it is also because of the let me talk about the disingenuous procedure of our members of parliament and even other leaders, even the cabinet secretaries, and the fact that they are not ready to listen to the president, given that some of them pay allegiance more to the deputy president than the president. That's a house divided, which is destined to fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking otherwise. I think more members of parliament allied to Jubilee pay more allegiance to President Uhuru than they do to Ruto. We have seen it before.
But practically, it seems that the ones supporting deputy president are more vocal than
Yeah.
the other
Who's
side.
making more noise?
Making noise doesn't really mean that you have taken the show, you have carried the day. Look at the number of members of parliament, shouting the highest in Mount Kenya, for example. About 3 members of parliament, and they are so vocal. How many members of parliament does the entire region of Mount Kenya has? So many. How many MPs in Rift are supporting the deputy president right now? So few of them, and they are so vocal, so they do not outshine or they do not outnumber the entire Jubilee parliamentary population.
Whether or not somebody is allied to the president or the deputy president, the fact is we are in a political mood and Jubilee is divided. So whether there are 2 members who are making noise or 7 from Jubilee, that one is a division. So we are talking about division in Jubilee. And it is incumbent upon the president and his deputy to call his house in order, use party mechanisms to bring members on board and have a solution towards this problem. Yeah.
We'll discuss that more in the next few minutes. But now to education matters. The NEC officials have clarified that no exams for grade 3 pupils, says NEC boards. The Kenya National Examination has clarified that it will administer an assessment, not examination, to grade 3 learners in September. And there's also a confusion here. There's a registration going on that's supposed to, I don't think that has started for this so-called assessment. And now it's a matter of definition, the difference between assessment and examination. What do you make of that, Amen?
I think if what the NEC boss is saying is anything to go by, it serves as a relief to me and to many other Kenyans who think the way I think, because it's very, very bad to subject or to expose such a small person to a national examination, rather in a mood of competition. It's very unfair, and it's very, I think it's very unhealthy in terms of their growing up. I'm not disputing the fact that we are moving very closely to a new system of education, but I think the manner in which they're trying to address it is going to mess our children so much.
I always say that education is the equalizer in the society. And assessment should take the center stage of any system of education to find out how our children or the students are doing. I think, was it last week or the other week, where Singapore abolished examination in their system. And the country is struggling towards an assessment. And whereas Singapore And under his founding father, if you read the autobiography of Lee Kuan Yew, the founding father of Singapore, find that he had a plan for the country. Unlike Kenya, whereby we wake up today, we change the system. We had changed the system from the other one to 844. Today we want to have another one, another system. I think it is 2663. Then before even we administer that system, we are again talking about assessment. I think that one is a situation whereby someone can call confused in the system. For me, I feel assessment is good, but for young children, I think we need to plan first before engaging them.
And also, do you think that the assessment should be done by teachers, not the NEC per se? Because when you talk of NEC, it means that it's a uniform assessment, which we also try to change the English. It still means the examination.
So for me, the assessment should be done by the teachers who understand the students. You know, NEC does not understand the situation of the student in Turkana, in Navaholo, in Mumias, in Coast region. It is the teacher who sits with this child, who understands the character of the child, who understands the environment, the situation affecting this child, and it is the teacher who understands what this child needs to do to be assessed or to do something that is maybe different from another student in another region. So I don't feel like NEC should be given this role to assess students uniformly in the country, and I've always opposed, because I've always wondered why education in this country is structured in a manner that a student in Nairobi is given the same test with a student in Turkana or in West Pokot, and they are judged on the same scale. To me, I feel like that one is not good, and people should be judged to inspire diversity of thought. People should be judged based on their environment, based on the situations and conditions these people are facing, and based on even the situation in their locality. So I dispute that decision by the NEC to assess students.
So are we also subjected to another Kizungumingi drama, but we are still going to have the same thing by the end of the day?
So before I even respond to that, I think the motive of this, the education system, the new education system, was to from the previous 844, which was examination centered. This one was to give the student the skills, you know, the practical experience of what they are doing in class. So I think subjecting these children in grade 3 to a national examination is not a good thing, and I think we must demarcate in the system at what age or at what stage should a child be, you know, be tested or be assessed of their progress. So we must have those progressive stages, and we're not saying that there should not be assessment or examination per se. We must demarcate, we must draw a line between the ages. So grade 3 is still very, very low.
Okay. And back to you, Rocket. When you are saying that the students should not be subjected to the same exams or assessments because of their different upbringing and different education backgrounds that they are undertaking their schools. How practical is that? Do you think it can be well implemented if we say every county should now have an exam based on the background? Let's say Turkana will have an exam based. Do you think? And now it's also an issue because education has not yet been developed.
You know, my thinking is that as a country, sometimes we get it wrong when it comes to education, because there is no point in training people or students to think in the same way, because we want to train a generation of people who are very innovative, who can actually respond to the environment and come up with solutions to the problems affecting the society or them. So, but this country has an education system whereby we are training people to get jobs. We train people to get jobs instead of being innovative and gaining the skill. And to me, I feel like if every region can come up with with their own even assessment, with their own way of teaching, with their way of actually inculcating knowledge to their people that is relevant to the environment
in which they live.
In which they live. That's the only way to inspire innovation.
So our current education is training people
I agree with
to
him.
think towards a certain direction.
Of course, because we are training people. For example, we went through the 844 system. Are you aware that almost everybody in this country was subjected to the same knowledge to the extent that when you go to the job market, you are like you are competing for the same thing and you have almost the same knowledge.
It has even become
look at a situation whereby somebody in Turkana, for example, where there is oil, he is taught about oil refining. He's taught about drought management.
But I think there's that option when it comes to higher education levels. There's that option of choosing what do you want to do.
That one only happens at higher level. And that one happens after you are guided through a system that directs you there. You reach Form 4, and it is like, based on your points that you scored, now the system itself chooses for you what you should do.
This is the area you fit.
That's where we miss the point. You know, we should inspire an education system that responds to the environment, an education system that inculcates skills based on the region that people come from. And that one will inspire innovation. It will also create, people will come up with solutions to problems affecting not just their region. For example, I was engaged in another discussion with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how our students are taught about Mesopotamia and agriculture in Brazil, agriculture. When our Muema sugar company is collapsing here, and we are taught about agriculture in Brazil or dairy farming in Germany, why can't we talk about the situation that is affecting our country here today and teach that one to our students? So that one says that, or it only shows that our education system to some level needs to be overhauled to respond to the environment.
You know, they even taught the problems facing
surely.
Maize farming
in Mesopotamia, Brazil.
You know, instead we should be putting focus on the problems facing our sugar industry, for example,
or maize,
you know.
Yeah? Or
so
tea farming.
I think I agree with him when he says that the education system has shifted its focus on training, students to become job seekers, okay, instead of job creators. You know, the whole essence of education is to to make someone expand their mind. So expand your mind so that you can think in different lines. So you can create your own employment. You can create your own opportunities without really depending on someone to go and give you instructions. Okay. In any case, you work on your farm at home and produce your own stuff and make money out of it.
Okay, I think we'll dedicate a day. We talk about more about our education system because it seems there are a lot of questions. Even the new curriculum, people are not yet aware. And when we talk of grade 3, maybe there's someone, maybe the village who doesn't understand what's the difference between grade 3 and standard 3 that we used to have. So I think we'll look for an expert in this section. Then we have that candid discussion. And maybe before we break, let's look at what the Star has this morning. Let's talk about Raila hits back over DP Ruto's Lord of Poverty, Jibe. Is it Jibe or Jib? I don't know. So Ruto, on page 2, they say that the ODM calls the DP a joker in a fresh political war that has erupted between Deputy President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga, with both sides delivering blisters punches. This has been for years now. It's not even now. For years now, Deputy President has not had a rosy time with the former Premier Raila Odinga.
What I do not understand is the difference between poverty and corruption. Because corruption leads to poverty, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
It does. So if somebody is accused of being corrupt, they should first of all think of what that means to the lives of Kenyans. because Kenyans will at the end of the day pay the ultimate price of their conduct while in office. So there is no direct line between, line of demarcation between corruption and poverty. Is there something?
Okay, do you think Raila is a lot of poverty is being termed by his former ODM member also, William Ruto?
Politicians drive the agenda of the country and even of media. Because, all politicians, if you read our history, they have a history of guiding the agenda of the country by calling others names, by telling others to do so, or even implicating others in some scandals, or maybe putting others in mud.
Yeah.
But when I look at Raila, the Right Honorable Raila, I feel like he's like the proverbial hare that went to the hippopotamus and told it that I can pull you. Then it went to the hill and told the elephant that I can also pull you. So it tied the two gigantic animals together, and all of them actually finished the race feeling that this hare has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Right Honorable Raila is employing the 48 laws of power of Robert Greene. He's trying to divide Jubilee, and when he calls Ruto names and keeps Ruto in a constant politicking mood, actually Jubilee stays divided. So to me, I feel like I can only equate him to the proverbial hare.
Also, DP has been saying since the handshake, has been saying this man came here to spread Jubilee. That is a way of politics. Do you think that also DP was right? As much as they are calling each other names, do you think the DP was right also?
The DP and Raila, all of them are right to some level. The DP knows that, has the history of this country. We all know how Raila went to Kanu and disintegrated Kanu in the 90s.
Okay.
We also understand, with that background, the DP must be wary, because he knows that he's next on the line to assume the presidency of this country. So when Raila comes into the house, he must be wary, and he should start asking questions. And it is normal to any politician. If your house is under arrest or under some sort of danger, you must come up with ways to combat that danger. And I feel like the war combat of the Deputy President against the Right Honorable is timely, and he is doing the right thing. He's playing politics. It is normal. And I know these guys are not enemies. They are only dividing the electorates, because all of them are aiming at something.
At something, yeah.
Yeah.
Abanya, do you also think the same?
I think the same. The Deputy President realized that he has a very close foe in the name of Raila Odinga, and he must also do anything within his ability to, keep him far from the president or even Jubilee as a party.
But it seems he's not succeeding on that. Because
He
the
might
more
not
he hits
succeed.
Raila, the more,
I can tell you he's not.
the more the rift grows between him and the president.
He might not succeed because the president does not want to leave this country as the only president who left office without a legacy. So that is one reason why he might not succeed.
Okay.
And number two, there is no assurity as per now that he is the only front runner. I hear people saying that he's the only candidate.
Okay.
But even if you look at the House of Jubilee itself,
Okay.
Yeah.
it tells you that there is already,
Likes of Korea.
the likes of Moses Kuria.
Okay, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
We'll be back, because that's the subject I not finished with the few seconds we have. We're now going to take a quick breather. We'll be back with the politics. There's also the discussion has already started. The politics mood here in the studio is already on modern. But now, join the conversation. #GBS Morning Extra. Our SMS line is 21144, and also we are also live on YouTube. Just keep watching and keep it GBS. Don't go too far.